What is up, y'all? It is your boy Winston Wolf. I'm back. I just want to do a quick video. Will the Detroit Lions make the playoffs? God, let's hope not. And this is coming from a Michigander here. Let's hope not. And why? Why do you say you hope not? Because then they could win the Super Bowl. And I know you're saying the Lions win the Super Bowl. Well, guess what? Crazy things are happening. Kanye's worshiping Hitler. R. Kelly just put out an album from prison. Anthony Davis hasn't had a season-ending injury yet. But what would happen if the Lions won the Super Bowl? Guess Detroit, once the proud murder capital of the United States, has fell off. If they won the Super Bowl, do you think that would last long? You've seen how Philly wild out. You see how even Canadian places wild out when they win a Stanley Cup or something. What do you think would happen in Detroit? What do you think would happen? You'd have people go back and look at when the Pistons won the back-to-back championships. Go back and look at the Detroit Free Presses and see how people lost their lives because people just couldn't celebrate in Detroit like a normal human being. They have to take lives. That's the only way you can express your happiness in Detroit that your favorite sports team has won the championship, is to take the breath from someone's lungs with hot lead. And you would have, if Detroit won the Super Bowl, number one, it's too far away or too much before the 4th of July to where in Michigan, if you don't know, it's not like other states where we have, fireworks stores that stay open all year round. You can only get it a little bit before 4th of July and then a day or two after 4th of July on clearance. That's it. If you want some fireworks, you got to either make your own like a psychopath or you got to drive to another state. Otherwise, you have to get it in season. So you would automatically have people wanting to have their homemade firecrackers, aka pistols. They'd be shooting them up in the air, and if they make it to the end of the game and they're watching it, they're clearly going to be under the influence, in a celebratory manner. So they're not going to aim the gun straight up. And even if you aim a gun straight up, what goes up must come down. Someone's going to hit it. They're going to aim it to the side at an angle to where someone could get shot in a third story window or something like that. So right there, you're going to lose a ton of lives just by people wanting to celebrate, wanting to have their homemade firecrackers. Also, Detroit, for years, and I don't know what happened, I'm kind of disappointed, but for years, Detroit was famous for Devil's Night. Devil's Night, you knew many, many, many things were getting burnt to the ground to a crisp. That was Devil's Night. That's just the night before Halloween. They had to go do that. Tons of people would lose their lives, whatever. Imagine if the Lions won the Super Bowl. They would bring that back. And I'm not even talking about on purpose. Just from the sheer, just out of control partying, things are going to get burnt down in Detroit. Because that's how they do it there. I live about an hour away from Detroit. That's an hour too short. I wish I could live all the way, whatever the exact most opposite on the planet Earth from Detroit that I could live, I wish I could live there. It's a terrible place. Just being in Michigan, just to take care of some things, you have to even go near that godforsaken place. It is garbage. Detroit sucks. There's nothing to be proud about with that just horrible, terrible city. But that's how they celebrate. They burn things down. They shoot guns. They don't know any other way. I mean, when I was younger, I used to think it was cool. I used to think it was something to be proud of. Hey, Detroit. But as an adult, when you have to go there, no. There's nothing cool about fearing for your life. So, also the murder rate would rise because of just drunk driving. You're going to have so many people just getting in their cars, driving. They're not going to care because this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So they're going to throw caution to the wind. You know what I'm saying? So not only are you going to have people dying by their own hands crashing and stuff, but they're going to be hitting other people. And not only accidentally hitting other people, but they're going to look at this as like some kind of like purge type opportunity where they're going to be like, well, I mean, this guy that I work with, he was giving me a dirty look the other day. I might as well, at the very least, run into him and try to paralyze him from the waist down. But, the whole aim is to cut him in half. Try to get him when he's walking alongside of a brick wall and just run your car fender right into his midsection as fast and as hard pause as possible and just cut him directly in half. turn them into a midget. Um, Also, you're going to have people, I mean, let's just face it, everybody hates their spouse. You know, maybe not all the time, but most people want their spouse dead. This is going to be a perfect opportunity because they're going to be like, you know what, this is the happiest I'm ever going to be. And right now I'm looking at the person that makes me the most miserable that I am, that I could ever be. So if there's ever a time to just have these two absolute apex of feelings collide, love and hate, which are, there's a thin line between both of those, as I've heard. That's going to be the time for people to just kill their spouse. And also, if you're a Lions fan, imagine how much garbage you've had to hear from your wife or your husband if you're a female Lions fan, that's even more bizarre. But just imagine just how much criticism, like, you're watching these losers again. We could be doing something together. We could be watching The Real Housewives. We could be out gardening, but you're going to watch these. You already know what's going to happen. They're going to lose. You're going to be upset. You're going to cry. Your voice is going to crack complaining about Matt Millen. Like, all this stuff. They've had to hear that for years. They've had to be put down by this harpy of a woman about their choice of favorite football team. This is going to be the perfect time to shove it in their face. And I'm not talking about figuratively. I went to public school, I'm sorry. I'm talking about literally. And I'm talking about shoving in their face. I don't mean the fact that they won. I mean a sharp knife. That's what I'm talking about. And that's what's going to happen if Detroit wins the Super Bowl. Also, you're going to have people committing it. They're going to be jumping off, the top of the highest building they can find. Because, again, Detroit's never, if they win the Super Bowl, they're never going to win it again. You know why? Because all these other teams, they're going to see Detroit win it, and they're going to be like, okay, if Detroit can win it, we're obligated to win it now. Cleveland Browns, whoever, they're going to, from that point on, from the point that Detroit wins it, they're never going to win it again because there's not going to be any excuse that any other team can. The Texans, I don't care who it is, there's no excuse that they're going to have if Detroit wins it and you can't. All right? So all the fans are going to know that is it. That's the happiest they're ever going to be. So why not just end it right there? Because they're never going to reach that. It doesn't matter if they have children. It doesn't matter if they graduate from college. Nothing will ever get married. Nothing will ever reach that happiness for a Detroit Lions fan of Detroit winning the Super Bowl. That will be it. So they will be diving. They'll be swan diving off right into the concrete off of 12-story buildings. I'm telling you. And the tragedy of that is Michigan is always one of the most obese states. Constantly, always in the top 3. So not only that, but you're going to have giant 500-pound people swan diving off of buildings, crashing into moving cars, landing on people walking on the sidewalks, just trying to mind their own business. So you're going to have multiple deaths because of people just in it because they're never going to be that happy again. You're also going to have people that are going to be getting smoked by loan sharks. Because you're going to have people they're going to be Lions fans, but they're going to be like, yo, the odds of them making it to the Super Bowl is already astronomical. So me thinking that they're going to win it, no, I'm going to bet against them. I'm going to bet the house, literally. I'm going to bet my house. I'm going to bet my idiotic kids' college fund. I'm going to bet everything, the wedding ring, everything. And they're going to lose, and they're not going to have whatever to cover bet they have because they live in Michigan. Let's face it. If you live in Michigan, you don't have much bread. That's why you're stuck here. All right? So they're going to have loan sharks gunning for them, literally gunning for their heads. All right? So you're going to have mad people getting smoked because of debts. Also, you're just going to have, again, you're going to have people just wilding out because they won a bunch of money, right? And you're going to have mad cocaine overdoses that night of the Super Bowl, okay? Just from people celebrating. Also, you're going to have people that their families have been Lions fans for generations and had to put up with this garbage team, right? So, again, they're going to know that this is the happiest they're ever going to be. They're going to know that the Lions are never going to reach this point again. And they're going to look over at their kid in the crib. And they're going to be like, you know what? this is it for us as a Lions family. And I don't want my kid to go through what my grandfather had to go through, what I had to go through, what my father had to go through. So I'm just going to get a pillow and I'm just going to smother that kid while he's at the height of our family's happiness. So you're going to have a lot of people just, helping their kids go to sleep permanently. That's what's going to happen. And for the final thing, the reason why we do not need the Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl is, have you been seeing these clips of like Brazilian people digging their relatives up and bringing them to birthday parties? Because, grandma's been dead for 4 years, but hey, this birthday party coming up with her niece, she would love to attend. So why not, let's just dig up the body, just bring her mummified corpse, right to the table and help her niece blow out the birthday candles. In Detroit, you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see people their father just was hanging on, had cancer, was just hanging on, just with the oxygen hooked up. So maybe they'll win it this year. And they didn't win it. And he died just disappointed. I mean, his whole life was probably disappointment. He's a Michigander. Our whole lives are disappointments, okay? But he tried to hang on for that one morsel of just making life worth living and couldn't get it. And once they win it, their sons, their daughters, whoever, knowing, people that are buried with their Lions shirts, like straight up absolute losers, they're going to be digging them up and bringing them to the Detroit Lions championship parade, which I kind of hope they win, because I would love to see a Detroit Lions parade and just see a bunch of corpses just lined up with just, Detroit Lions sweatshirts and hats. That'll be actually, I want them to win. I want Detroit to win the Super Bowl so I can see a bunch of corpses lining the street with their hands propped up, waving to the football team. I would just love that, okay? So I totally changed my mind. Detroit, please win the Super Bowl.